Hi, everyone. How are you? Good to see you. I just have a couple of updates, and then I'm going to hand it over to Maritza and then Adrian Jefferson, who's the director of our cultural affairs department, with some updates as well. So we have 1,324 cases and 43 fatalities still. There are still a total of 17 firefighters that are positive and 8 police officers that are positive. 10 of those firefighters have already returned to work because they fully recovered and are no longer contagious. And I believe 2 police officers. We have 5 people now at career. Over the time, there's been a cumulative total of 8 people that have been there. And those are all the updates I have. I'll hand it over to Director Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. So today for our nursing home updates, we have for the Grimes Center, they are still really stable with their numbers. There's no changes in the prior reporting that I provided to you all in previous press conferences. With Mary Wade, we have 3 additional staff that have been sent out for testing. That's the change in regards to Mary Wade from the previous data that I provided. For Regal Care, we have a slight increase in 2 residential positive cases. So we have now a total of 24 positive residents at Regal Care. And we also have 4 staff that are pending testing. And for advanced nursing, the change here is that we have 2 positive residents with a total of 3 positive employees. And so 1 additional resident and 2 staff now. That's the highlight change for that. And that concludes my nursing home report.
Thanks, Director Bond. Adrian, do you want to give an update on the Creative Arts Relief Fund?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mayor, and hello, everyone else. As you know, we had launched the Creative Sector Relief Fund in partnership with the Arts Council of Greater New Haven. This initiative is part of our Together New Haven economic resiliency effort, and it is a program under that umbrella. I'm very ecstatic about the progress that we have made. When we first launched this program, the day we announced, we probably got over 300 applications. And within that time, the next week we were up to 500 applications. So I'm glad to say today that we have been able to disperse $132,225 worth of relief funding money, and that's to 326 applicants. The applicants consist of artists, creative freelancers, arts workers, and small nonprofit organizations who were in great need of some relief. On average, people were asking for about $1,000 in relief money. We decided to give half of the requests. So we give out about $500 to 326 individuals. That's pretty much the update. We have received $57,225 from individual contributors and donors who really found it valuable to get behind this effort to support the creative economy during this time. And that's it for my update.
Thanks, Adrian. Does anyone else from our team have anything to add before I turn over to questions? No, I did want to mention that today is New Haven's 382nd birthday. And I was looking at how last year we celebrated, and it was a gathering with lots of people not conducting any social distancing. To imagine a time when people weren't conducting social distancing, doesn't it sound wonderful? But just I think it would be helpful to take a moment to reflect on New Haven's history. And, we haven't had a perfect history, but overall, I think the narrative of New Haven is one where we've welcomed so many people. New Haven is very much a place that welcomes cultures from, and has done so historically, from all around the world, whether it's the the Irish and Italians that came from Europe, the migration of many, many African Americans from the South. In more recent years, many Puerto Ricans and many folks from South and Central America. And of course, many people from the Middle East and Africa that have come here and resettled very much with the support of IRIS. And I think about the fact that our city is so compassionate, and that compassion and welcoming and support of nature, I think, is really coming out during the COVID-19 crisis, where so many people have worked hard to support the undocumented population, the undomiciled population, and is also working to support the other communities in the state. We have a CVS facility and a mask cleaning facility that are serving people from around the state, and the mask facility, even people from beyond Connecticut. I'm so proud to be the mayor of a city that I think has countless examples that reflect the values that I believe are so important for us being strong community members, and for us being the type of people that supports each other and cares for individuals that may not have as much opportunity. And so I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on that before I open it up to questions. So now I shall do so. Does anybody have any questions? Shayna.
Hey, Mayor, thank you for taking my question. This question is directed toward you and also Mr. Pinto, if you could chime in as well. Concerning at distance learning, I know there is a concern for the percentage of students that aren't able to engage or aren't engaging, period, in at distance learning, whether that's from an accessibility standpoint or just an opportunity standpoint. Can you kind of talk to me about what the issue is and kind of how the city and the school system is working to address this issue for students that just aren't learning during this time? If you can chime in, and of course, I would love to hear from Mr. Pinto as well. I know Dr. Tracy's not on this call, but from both of you, if you can tell me a little bit more.
Go for it, Mr. White.
Okay.
Or Dr. White.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Dr. Paul White. I'm one of the assistant superintendents. Particularly, we are trying to work with our youth and family engagement team to try and track down our students. Schools have opened up to give out devices on 7 to 8 occasions now. Even the central office, we conducted additional distributions last week. And so having approximately 10% of our students not engaging while still deploying both through youth and family to try and track down students, see what the issues are. We've provided packets at the meal distribution sites so that families who may not be able to access can still get academic work. We want them to check in with their schools in one way or another, whether just email their principal, email the central office, somewhere so we know where they are. We're very concerned because we want to track down and know where kids are and whether they're choosing not to engage. Some families don't want to use devices, so they prefer that print work, and that's fine. But as long as we know where kids are, that's what we're working towards, and trying to cover as many means. We'll do additional distributions as necessary as we find out whatever the situations are. And engagement always, sometimes at the student level, it's a family issue as well, because if the family's in crisis, we're not expecting them to access their learning at this time. We know there are other issues going on, whether a family member may be suffering during this crisis. We want to know what we can do to support. Our social workers are still working, using the devices to connect with families, to have counseling sessions. They can call in. So we have the resources ready, and we're trying to track down all of our kids. And of course, there's also a small percentage of students who didn't engage when school was in session, and we want to track them down as well. The key thing is knowing, so that we know all of our kids are safe, and then provide the supports at whatever levels necessary.
For the students that I know you had mentioned that aren't engaging, or the small percentage that weren't engaging pre-pandemic. Is this a conversation leaning toward truancy?
Well, we're using all of those resources to track down these kids. And again, it's not from a punitive perspective. It's about trying to know where our kids are. The same way if during the school year someone's been chronically absent or not attending regularly, we'd send out truancy to look for them. We're doing that as virtually and through whatever context, reaching out using friends, whether if we're in contact with some schools that have the best nexus of connection. So if they know they can reach their friend, if our staff can reach a friend and say, hey, reach out to this person, let's get in touch with them, we're trying everything we can to do that.
Is it hard to get in touch with these families?
Yes, because there is a portion that is homeless, so they may be doubled up or they're couch surfing. So if they don't provide us their most updated information, it does get difficult to reach these families. So, but again, we're employing everything we can.
Mhm. And I understand you're working with the resources that you are also given. And from a financial standpoint, I know Mayor Elicker has talked extensively on working with the resources that we have with, given the circumstances. And Mayor Elicker, can you kind of speak to any extra help that the city is offering financially to kind of also be of aid to the situation?
Well, this, of course, the city approves the New Haven Public Schools budget. And we've also been having conversations with some major donors about funding more Chromebooks and more devices for New Haven Public Schools. And that's an ongoing conversation. Universities donated some money to that. And I know the Dalio Fund is looking to do so as well, but we're talking with other donors to increase the number so that more New Haven Public School kids can have access to online learning.
Gotcha. What is this gonna, and my final question, then before I turn it over to someone else that probably does have questions, and either Dr. White or yourself or both, if you can answer this, what is this going to look like at the end of the school year when a lot of these kids that aren't engaging didn't have the opportunity or the chance to learn? I mean, what's that outcome going to look like? Is there summer school for it? Is there a fail? Like, can you kind of talk to me about what's going to happen to those kids?
With the Board of Education, we are coming up with what the final policy is going to look like. The state has given some recommendations that the fourth quarter look like pass fail or pass with distinction, and then take some suggestions have been to take the average of the other 3 quarters. So we're looking at a policy that's going to be flexible enough to honor the work that students have done, but not penalize for situations that are out of their control. And so in some cases, that could mean some incompletes for work to be completed later. But also, again, we don't want to grade only on privilege, those that have everything in place, the family structure to get everything done. So again, it's looking for a policy written in a way that can support all of our families as best as we can.
I mean, Shane, and Dr. White, if I may, get real a bit. I was on a call with mayors of other cities, of other large cities a couple of days ago, and we were all talking about how we've pretty much lost a semester of schooling. And that is not to say that there isn't a lot of good work being done by educators in large cities across the state. But the fact that so many kids had to, in the matter of days, transition, and our teachers had to transition from what we're accustomed to with interactive learning in the classroom to online learning poses such an incredible challenge to cities like New Haven, like Hartford, like Bridgeport, like Stanford, like Waterbury. And so for many kids, it's just very, very difficult to provide the kind of education, but not just education, but the many other services that cities like New Haven provide in our public schools that we just can't provide right now because of the logistics around this. I know that Dr. Tracy and Dr. White and their team are working very, very hard to do everything they can to interact with folks, but this is a very challenging situation. And, you know, just to add one thing, that we're not entirely clear how much we'll be able to open up and how quickly. And so yesterday we had a conversation with our youth department and parks department about how we're struggling to figure out what to do with our youth at work program over the summer with summer camps. And the challenge is not knowing how quickly we will be able to open up, while wanting very much to offer the kind of services and support for families and young people throughout the city. This is far from an ideal situation, and I think we're doing the best we can to address it.
Gotcha. It's all, it really, from what I hear from both of you, comes down to an accessibility standpoint, you know, with a good chunk of students, obviously, in some poor situations. Some just may not have the access or the opportunity, or just be in a bad family situation. So it sounds like whatever happens won't be punitive if a student, for some reason, just won't be engaging.
Is that fair,
Correct.
Dr. White?
Yes. Yes, again, we want to make sure we're not punitive, but well, first, safety is first most, so we want to work with that, make sure they're safe and taken care of, and then we can do what we need to get them caught up.
Thank you.
Shana, congratulations. You actually asked more questions than Tom Breen usually does on these calls.
I broke a record, Mayor.
I'm going to go with Kyle, and then Tom, and then Michael.
Well, you guys already kind of talked about it a little bit. I was wondering when we were discussing the education, how many of the children that are missing are homeless of the 10% that you're trying to reach? Are they ones that might be in the hotels or things like that?
Some of them are, but also our youth and family department has been reaching out, has been in touch, particularly our McKinney-Vento liaisons have been working around the clock to make sure what's taking care of them, both with their the food needs, their housing needs, as well as connecting them, getting them devices. So it does make up one portion of that, but again, there are also just the reality of it. We have students who have become disengaged for a variety of reasons, and some who attend school because they're supposed to, and then some who that we have to always do a better job of connecting and making sure. And so with the absence of being physically in school, it's harder to do that right now. And that's what we're trying to get at that group of kids.
Thank you. Mayor, I was wondering, I know that I had asked you yesterday about another testing site. I just wanted to reach out and see if you had any other sites beyond that one that we're waiting for more information on. How much further are you going to expand testing for communities that has seemed to be, you know, the goal that you've executed on, making testing accessible by walking and things like that? Any more sites that are going to open up?
So we are so close to announcing this next site. Director Bond can tell you that I've been bugging her about wanting to make sure that we tell the public about this additional site. At the moment, we don't have any plans to open any additional sites. I think when you compare what we've done in New Haven to other major cities, we are way ahead of the curve. We have 2 sites, Yale New Haven Hospital and CVS, that are processing over 1,000 tests a day, and then the 3 community sites, 2 of them that are up and running and are running quite well and have a lot of demands. And the 3rd that's about to activate is doing a ton to help increase accessibility in the community. And we were on the phone earlier today with Cornell Scott and Fairhaven Health, and both of them were commenting on just how much interest there was in their programs. Fairhaven is doubling the amount of number of tests, and then that they're giving each day. And then Saturday, they're going to be tripling it with increased staff. So the demand is very significant. If we continue to see this demand rise, I think that it's fair to say that we'll continue to look for other options to provide testing.
And just sort of, I was wondering your reaction to being able to make this accessible to help the communities of color that you've sort of had in your plan the whole time. I mean, I know we're looking for more of that data to understand the actual impact, but just your thoughts on making it happen.
I think the credit needs to go to our community health centers. Director Bonds and I have been proactively engaging with them and asking them, can we do this? How can we support you? And we've done what we can to make sure that they can activate, but the work and the front lines testing is something that I think is important for us to give them credit for, especially because both organizations have been in the community for decades, and that trust is one of the critical components to ensuring that more people that may not necessarily trust a CVS or a Yale New Haven hospital, it helps them get in the door and get tested and get the support that they need.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the mayor. It's important to express that we are just merely conveners. We have the opportunity to really look at the data streams and really assessing the hotspots, et cetera. But really, our role is to provide protocols, policy recommendations, and also public health interventions, such as coupling the testing and contact tracing efforts together. And so the fact that both community health centers have really proactively just been engaged from the beginning, saying how can we help, and really execute in such a short period of time is just an example of how we are in this together. We know that not one source can really solve this problem, and it really takes a collective group to be able to try to mitigate this pandemic that we're in.
Great. Thank you guys very much. That's it for me.
Thanks, Kyle. Let's go to Tom and then Michael.
Thank you, everyone. Mayor, you said that Fairhaven Community Health plans to increase its capacity in the coming days. You said double and triple. So what is the expected per day capacity at Fairhaven and at Cornell Scott from what you know right now?
I did not ask the numbers on the call. I know that Fairhaven has moved from testing people at one person every 15 minutes to one person every 7 minutes. They've been super accessible. Dr. Lagarde has been very accessible, so I'd encourage you to give them a call. And I'm also happy to ask as well, as if you can't get in touch with them.
Thanks. What's the current state of the Youth at Work program, just as of right now?
As of right now, we are accepting applications. We've been accepting applications since January. And it's very important that there is a caveat in large capital letters that we do not know if we will be able to place students this summer. And the staff in our youth department has been working hard to interact with the usual work sites to see if there are possibilities for those work sites to accept young people. I also know that a lot of summer camps are also struggling around the city to figure out what they're going to do this summer. We have a few weeks to make a decision on this. We understand that families are very reliant on not just the Youth at Work program, but the summer camps that the Parks Department provides. And at the moment, we're evaluating the situation and determining whether we're able to offer camps in full, some sort of pared down camp version, or no camps at all. And we'll let people know.
And is the city website the best place to go to apply for Youth at Work or find out the latest with summer camps?
Yeah, I think on the youth department's web page on the city, you can get the application materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Bond, thank you very much for the nursing home update. I wonder if have any city staff joined any state Department of Public Health staff in making any on-site visits to local nursing homes recently? And if so, which ones and how have they gone?
So we have not joined the Department of Public Health on the site visits. We are informed when they're done. Unless there's any major concerns, local health usually does not interject with those site visits. However, we've been in communication with the Department of Public Health as well as the nursing homes regarding their status updates and, informing all of you regarding what the pandemic is looking like and outbreaks that are potentially of concerns within these nursing homes.
And have you been alerted to as to any major concerns by the state in regards to any nursing homes?
Not at this juncture. Sorry, that's my dog.
Thank you. And for Ms. Jefferson, thank you very much for the update on the Creative Sector Relief Fund. You mentioned that I think a little under half of the money was raised by individual donors. And so where did the other money come from? From foundations?
We started off with $50,000 from New Haven Festivals, which is our nonprofit arm to the Department of Cultural Affairs. And then we started off with $10,000 from the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, who was later able to contribute another $10,000. So everything else was fundraised individually through our fundraising efforts.
And did you say every grant that's been given out has been $500, or that's been the average amount?
Yeah, on average. It varies between $450 and $500, but I would say mostly $500.
And are there any examples of artists who have received money that you can point to, or any, is there a list of people who have received this, any kind of running publicity that you're doing about who's benefiting from this stuff?
We're asking consent for that from them because we're trying to protect the integrity of the artists who are asking. So we're not doing public announcements of people who have received the money. Right now we are asking for consent. So we have sent out that list. But what I do have for you is some anecdotes that I would like to share based on, people who have received funding who got back to us on what this funding has done for them. So I can share a few with you.
Please.
One message says, I wanted to send this message and say how proud I am to be in a city that cares for us. It's moving and validates our purpose and being as artists. Thank you for all that you are doing in the city. Please keep up the good work. Someone else said, I am truly appreciative of this assistance. I'm also impressed at the speed with which my request was handled. You guys should be a model for all government agencies.
Sounds like I wrote that.
That made us feel really good. And I'll share one more. Someone else said, I am both thrilled and extremely grateful to have received this grant. Thank you so much for this generosity and for providing me with the opportunity to have a small sense of relief for the time being as we all try to navigate survival. This has lifted an immediate weight off of my shoulders, and I am now able to pay my rent. So yeah, we got so many of those messages. We gave out 326 grants and we received messages from majority of them.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And is there, can people apply for this fund for the foreseeable future? Is there a deadline?
Yeah, there's no deadline yet. We're going to continue to fundraise. There will be a cutoff temporarily at some point so that we can continue to get more dollars in the door. But because this is going to be, people are going to need relief for a very long time. So we do not anticipate closing this program down.
And could you remind me where people can go to apply for this money?
Yeah, on the Arts Council of Greater New Haven's website, and also on the Department of Cultural Affairs landing page.
Thank you. Well, I love this update, and in future updates, if artists are up for sharing their names in addition to their testimony, I would love to hear them. So just to put in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and that's it for me.
Adrian, you could probably reach out to some artists and just see if they're interested and maybe connect them with the New Haven Independent.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Because if it's their choice, then that would be great. That would be fine. All right, Michael, you are patient.
Well, Tom asked exactly the question I wanted to ask Ms. Jefferson, but let me follow up on that, which is, if you said yes to 326 artists, how many did you say no to?
Well, we had a little over 500 applications. So I think it's about 510 applications. I don't have the exact math, but if you deduct the 326 from about 510, that's how many people we had to say no to.
Oh, okay, thank you. And may I ask the mayor a more general question as the business editor on this call? And I know you don't want the call to end prematurely because Mary O'Leary isn't on it. Yesterday, the governor set a timetable for some time in June to open businesses that were deemed non-essential last month. Today's April 24th. June 1st is more than 5 weeks from now. Since the shutdown sort of started the week of March 17th, that would mean we're not even quite halfway through the shutdown. So, you know, we all know Connecticut is not Wyoming or South Dakota, but it's also not New York or New Jersey. So I guess my question is simply, what is your opinion about that timetable, which, you know, obviously for many local businesses seems like an eternity from now?
Sure. We very much want to open up, right? I think that everyone wants to get back to some sort of normal life, and in particular, people that are really struggling economically right now. I think there's a reason that Connecticut is not New York or New Jersey, and that is because we very proactively and quickly implemented social distancing. And we need to stay the course and ensure that we don't become a New York or New Jersey by making premature decisions that will potentially significantly impact the health of the city, but also the economy. If we end up opening up too quickly, the economy will be hit way more significantly than it is now. I think that it's fair to say that the likely approach to opening up will be in phases, and we will tiptoe into this. We're having conversations about what we think that looks like for New Haven. And even now, I think there's opportunities for us as a city, for example, through restaurants, to provide more economic opportunities by encouraging more people to take out and restaurants to do delivery, by encouraging some places like what happened with Hulls, some stores to apply for essential status to the governor so that they can, with a plan that keeps their employees and their customers safe, start to operate some. But I think we need to tiptoe into this. I also think that it's highly, highly likely that the governor will close schools for the rest of the year. Currently, the governor has said that he will make a decision 2 weeks before the May 20th date. I would encourage that to happen sooner than later because I think we deserve some certainty around that decision, but I think it's highly likely that we will close schools. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I did want to clarify one remark I made on this call. That I said that we've lost a semester for our children, and I would say that for some we've lost a semester. I don't want there to be a headline, Elicker says that we've lost a semester, because that does not reflect the work that Mr. White, Dr. White, Dr. Tracy, and so many people in our school community are doing. Are there any other questions from folks? Going once, going twice. I see that Gage already connected you with Dr. Lagarde, Tom. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. Take care.